Please be advised that this video is for the sole purpose of entertainment. Any views are purely my own, are subjective and may not necessarily be true. I do, however, do extensive research for all of my videos. All photos have been found on the public domain. I am using them under the fair use and fair dealing guidelines. I urge everybody to do their own research. Well, hello, it's Murky Meg here. It's Sunday the 11th of October and the world has officially gone mad. Harry and Meghan sat down to speak to US teenagers for World Mental Health Day for their podcast. Now they did it from their home in Santa Barbara. What's come out of their mouths is quite literally one of the funniest things I have ever heard. But first, let me just say, mental health is very, very important. There's a difference between being critical and being trolled. Now some people say I'm a troll. Well, let them say that. What I'm doing is I'm calling Harry and Meghan out for their hypocrisy. There is nothing wrong with that. They are public figures. If they want to be public figures and stay in the limelight, which they clearly do, they have to expect criticism. But this is just another example of them holding their own pity party and just kind of flinging in the odd, oh, we need to be aware about our mental health issues. We need to talk. It's good to talk. Yes, it's good to talk, but sometimes less is more, Harry and Meghan. So I've listened to the entire podcast. I managed to get through all 30 minutes of it. Go me. And I'm going to break down the most important parts that I feel that we need to speak about. Firstly, let's talk about the teenagers. What education do Harry and Meghan have talking to the young 15-year-olds about mental health? It really doesn't compute to me that they think that it's okay to do this. I purely think that they were asked to do it and they thought, hey, it's another way of getting our name out there. Let's jump on this bandwagon. And secondly, this podcast was about mental health, yet it's been turned around about Meghan's mental health. What she went through, how she's been trolled. I'm sure you've seen the news because it is everywhere. So let's break it down. First things first, they were introduced as the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Yep, there's those titles again. Meghan spoke about social media and the vulnerability that it causes online. And only a few minutes into the podcast and she drops the biggest clang of them all. She said, personally, she was told she was the most trolled person of 2019. Wrong. That was Adele. It was Adele, then it was Gemma Collins, and then it was Meghan Markle, and then it was Piers Morgan. In fact, she wasn't the most Googled celebrity in 2019. That went to Caitlyn Jenner. It was Caitlyn Jenner, James Charles, then Prince Andrew. Ooh, that's gotta hurt, isn't it? A lot of people have been talking about this, that she said she was the most trolled person of 2019. That is extremely self-absorbed of her to even mention that on a podcast about mental health. Yes, she probably was criticised and an element of trolling, but there is a difference between criticism and trolling. You do something and speak out, you are going to get called up about it if you are hypocrites. But then that just shows you the fact that she's got that statement wrong. She thinks she was the most trolled person of 2019. In fact, she wasn't. So again, she's making it all about herself. Who on earth is this woman? Why does she not fact-check before she opens her mouth? She also said that during those 8 months that she was on maternity leave, she wasn't even visible. So let's fact-check that, shall we? Wimbledon, where she cleared out an entire set for just her and her mates. That was quite visible. Smartworks, that was quite visible. Trooping the Colour, very visible. Presenting Archie to the world, needed and part of the course of being in the royal family, but visible. The Vogue issue, the Lion King premiere, Commonwealth Service 2019, New Zealand Christchurch Memorial Service, visiting New York when she went to go and see Serena Williams play in the US Open. That was during her maternity as well. And of course, the Holy Grail of the Holy Grail, the New York baby shower. Does everything that this woman says that slips out of her mouth ever get fact-checked? I mean, this just shows exactly the true extent to her narcissism. And I don't say that very, very lightly. Everything is about her. to the extent that she said that the trolling was almost unsurvivable. Oh, Didum, shall I get my little violin out? I'm sorry if I sound angry or aggressive. It's because I am. This is South Africa all over again. They've just manipulated these teenagers to talk about woe is us. In the podcast, she says that she doesn't care if you're 15 or 25. Well, you're neither, Meghan. If people are saying this about you and they aren't true, what that does to your mental health and emotional health is so damaging. When asked what she does to help with these struggles, she said that she journals to help. Well, I suppose one way or another you've got to get your facts straight for the memoir or the tell-all book that is going to be surely coming out in the future. I do wonder if I'm mentioned in those journals. I'd love to know if she ever listens to me. She continues, sometimes when you're going through something, it feels like the biggest thing in the entire world. And then you look back at it in a year, and yeah, it was still big, but it wasn't that big. Well, didn't you just say that it was almost unsurvivable and that you were the most trolled person in 2019? I think you've just contradicted yourself there, Meghan. Harry pipes up and mumbles some words, and he says that he meditates, and Meghan Markle then butts in and said he's very dedicated to it. I'm sure he is. He probably has to get away from you. And of course, Harry has to have his say and said that people hide behind username and things are said that they wouldn't say in person. Well, I'm saying it right now, out and aloud. You're both hypocrites and you're jumping on so many bandwagons, you're diluting yourself and you're looking like muppets. And the absolute golden nugget from Harry says many people are freaking out because of the echo chamber that has been created on social media. I'm sorry, what? Echo chamber? It's the biggest load of word salad I have ever heard. You've just made up a word. Then Meghan continues, when you have that moment of doubt of whether to speak up or out, if you sit in silence, and I think that that could be a lot worse for your mental health than people give it credit for. Okay, we've already done that one in South Africa, haven't we? And that was probably one of the reasons why she left the royal family, because she couldn't fight back. Now she can, and she's suing everybody that she feels that has vindicated her. Then we come to the part of the podcast that was literally head in hands moment. One of the male presenters asked, Meghan, how are you? Well, both of you really. How are you both? You could tell he checked himself to think, oh God, I've just asked Meghan, I need to ask Harry. You can tell in Meghan's voice as she responds how chuffed she is to be able to reminisce about this wonderful story. She says, it was about a year ago that someone asked me that. Poor old Tom Bradbury, he doesn't even get a name check, does he? She harps on about the struggles in South Africa and how she was asked at the most vulnerable moment, how was she? The fact that she was tired and that she had to go home and feed Archie. And then she likened breastfeeding to running a marathon. Yep, she talked about breastfeeding to a bunch of teenagers. She then said that she didn't realise that the answer to the question, are you okay, would receive such interest around the world. Really? You're speaking about yourself, about how horrible you feel in one of the poorest countries of the world. Poverty all around you, and you're speaking whether or not if you're okay and how vulnerable you feel. And nobody ever asks me if I'm okay. She said that she didn't think about the answer because she was in a moment of vulnerability, because she was tired. She said the reason it resonated with people is because everybody wants to be asked if they're okay. Did she actually see the response that it got worldwide? Because it was an absolute slaughterhouse. It really was. It went round the world on whether or not Meghan was okay. It wasn't a good thing, as far as I'm concerned. With that comment that she made in South Africa, it made her look extremely self-absorbed and selfish. It went on, and they mumbled about mental health and people speaking up and how it's important to talk, and how Harry asks his friend if they're okay, and then he just says, no, I really want to know if you're okay. I'm genuinely asking if you're okay. I want to know about your mental health. Well, that's fine. Everybody deals with their own mental health in themselves, and what's wonderful with today's society is there's so much help out there should you need it. But what I find with these two, it's very one-sided. It was all about them. They highlighted their struggles and how others aren't so fortunate to have the green space, and others are living on top of each other, and how they're very fortunate and privileged. Yeah, you are, sunshine. You're from the royal family. You're a prince. Doesn't get more fortunate than that. I want to go back to this trolling issue just for a moment, and I just want to add that if she's so upset with the amount of negative criticism that she gets, then maybe a political career isn't exactly the one for her. It was just a woe is us moment, and I actually felt really cringy listening to the podcast. And I think that before they open their mouths on the matter again, of anything again, they really do need to have a look deep down and check their own behaviour before they start talking about others. I mean, this constant stream of victim status is getting boring. They are public figures. What do they expect? Everybody and anybody who's in the public eye gets positive and negative press. It's how you use it. Don't just sit there and go, oh, poor us, I'm the most trolled person in 2019, when in fact she wasn't. She knew exactly who she was marrying, she knew exactly what she was going into and the lion's den that she was going to face. Anybody in the world knows exactly what scrutiny the royal family comes under. And rightfully so, because they receive taxpayers' money. Now, I know that Harry and Meghan don't receive that anymore, but they were given a platform. They abused that platform, they left that platform, and yet they are still harping on about the treatment that they received in that platform. Why not just literally draw a line under it and just move on? But that wouldn't suit their narrative, would it? Then they wouldn't be able to play the victim. They wouldn't be able to tug at those heartstrings and get people's sympathy. The poor Duke and Duchess of Sussex, how hard they've had it in their $14 million mansion. I'm sorry, but if they weren't such hypocrites, they wouldn't get criticised. And don't even get me started on talking about breastfeeding with teenagers. It is inappropriate. So, I'd love to know your thoughts on this whole mess that they have done yet again. Do you think it's right that they should be allowed to speak out? Everybody should be allowed to speak out. But do you think the tone that they have set is right? Do you think that they going in there talking all about themselves was the right tone to do this podcast on? I'd love to know your thoughts on her thinking that she's the most trolled person of 2019 when in fact she wasn't. How about the fact that she felt invisible and it was almost unsurvivable? Do you think that she should have said those things? And finally, I'd like to ask each and every one of you, are you okay? As always, I'd love to know your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the notification bell, and also that like button. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of my followers for all the tips and all the emails, DMs that everybody sends to me. It really is greatly appreciated. So thank you very much for watching once again.